So it's been a long time, Justin. We haven't done this for a hot minute. Lots gone on in sports. You've been watching playoff football, I know, for that Eagles-Packers game. A viral video went out of a Eagles fan completely cursing out this young lady, and her fiance apparently was recording the whole thing. I had you watch that video yesterday, and we had a nice little, back and forth of,
Yes, we did.
So I think it was the best way to start this conversation is kind of like, we'll just say what our stances are. So what ended up happening to this Eagles fan is so that video went viral. A whole bunch of people are like, let's find out who this guy is and like make him pay or whatever. So guy ended up getting banned for life from Lincoln Financial Field, where the Eagles play. And then he lost his job as a business analyst for BCT Partners.
Oh, it's good that you know that, because I had not a clue.
But then we were talking before we were setting up for the show that the Packers fan apparently is a content creator and set up a GoFundMe for having other people, like the people who follow him or whatever, to pay for him to go to the Eagles game. So now there's a back and forth between, this is an obvious Philadelphia sports fan scumbag that stepped out of line, versus this Packers fan who lives in Philadelphia, or lives in Pennsylvania, excuse me, at least knew that he was doing something by showing up and was trying to provoke the situation. So what do you think about this?
So you got two different things here. So obviously, I didn't know until yesterday about what you said about the what was it, the creator thing?
Content creator.
Yeah, that, which is, you can do that anywhere.
Yeah.
And I hate the way the world works now. It's so fucking ridiculous the way we got to make content for viewers and make this thing like, I mean, obviously we're doing it right now, but we're not making a story up for some bullshit. We're at a fucking football game anyway. But to the guy that got annihilated and said the things that he said to that woman, just going by the video alone, just the video alone, not knowing the backstory on what happened with the content creator stuff, not knowing that, just watching the video, the guy looked like such a douche, like just being a douche, just saying multiple things that like you wouldn't say to anybody. But then again, you're not even gonna say you're a Philadelphia fan, because you can do that anywhere. I've done it in places, but he was very drunk. But yeah, it just seemed it. But like you said, he lost his job from this, and this was the thing that you and I were getting in a little bit of a tiff about. I wasn't really too keen on. I thought that he deserved that, but I also thought why I thought he deserved to lose his job more so is because I didn't know what kind of company he was working for. If they were, let's say, business seats. Yeah. If he was business seats, absolutely should have lost his job, because, code of conduct. And we talked about that for a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, what were you going to say about that?
Well, my opinion on this is that the punishment should fit the crime. So as I said at the start of the show, he's your stereotypical Philadelphia sports scumbag. Like, this is tame compared to some of the things that I've seen in Philadelphia, because I used to cover the Philadelphia Flyers, and I used to go to Philadelphia Flyers games all the time. So I have seen this stuff way too often. One of the last games I went to was a Flyers-Devils game. It was in 2012 when the Devils beat them in 5. The only game the Flyers won. I was at that game with my little sister. And some Devils couple was getting railed on by this Philadelphia fan who was just saying like all this shit about the girl, like she has fake tits. That's the one thing that I remember of that. And it's for Philadelphia, it's the norm. I remember walking out of a Philadelphia. I think the Flyers got eliminated by the Penguins. I think this might have been 2009.
Okay.
And as I was walking out, there was an orange tornado of just Flyers fans pummeling each other. And I'm like, well, I got to get out of here. And then as I got to my car, there was this couple walking by, and they were clearly drunk. And she's saying something to this guy I can't hear because I'm in my car, my engine's going, and all that stuff. And he just shoves her to the ground. And I was like, I got to get out of this city.
Yeah.
It's despicable. I've also gone to Flyers Penguins games where a guy jumped over like a row of seats to punch a Penguins fan. And then something that happened to me personally in Philadelphia. Again, another Flyers Penguins game. I was walking by this Penguins fan. Wasn't really doing anything. I think I was walking by the men's room line, and this Flyers fan just shoves him into me, and his beer like spills all over me.
That's great.
This is not. That's why I was saying to you, like, dude, this is tame. Like, you got off easy. All that happened to you is you got called a dumb, ugly cunt. Like, that's getting off easy. Nobody put hands on you. Like, I will say this as an olive branch, because I do think the guy deserved to be punished in some shape, way, or form. As I put it to you in the text exchange, broken nose, and he gets tossed from the game. I think that's it.
But he issued his apology, Dan. That means everything.
Yeah, after he already lost his job. And also, when did a normal, like, Joe, a business analyst who makes between, 110K to 130K. I looked
you know way more than I do. That's ridiculous. Yeah. Fuck that guy.
I agree with fuck that guy, because he stepped out of line. He broke the fan code, in my opinion. Like, you don't have to. First of all, you don't curse out the girl.
No, you heckle each other for your dumb sports stuff. Yeah. Because I am numero uno, and I'll tell you a little tiny story about this whenever you're done.
Oh no, I was just saying that you need the punishment should fit the crime. I'm old school, so I think if you insult my girl, I break your nose. I think that's a fair trade.
Absolutely.
And also getting him tossed. Since you can't do that, I don't condone like punching somebody in the face, because then you'll get thrown in jail. As I tell my sisters all the time, if you react, then you're going to get in trouble.
Well, that's also what I was saying to my fiance about this. I don't understand about how the dude was just filming this the entire time, just filming it, watching that girl, watching his lady just like taking, just getting yelled at by this dude. And like, they didn't leave. And I thought that was strange, but then obviously found out like the next day that, the content creator bullshit, whatever. Yeah. So right when I found that out, I was like, wait a second, fuck those guys. Maybe they should have got fucking pummeled by all the Eagles people. Like that's bullshit. No, thank you. So the tiny little story that I want to say, unless you wanted to say something else.
I was going to add the context too. Apparently he was wearing a body cam camera.
Okay.
So that also, like, you're not showing up to a sports game with a body cam on.
Exactly.
Expecting to be like, oh, I'm not going to provoke anything. I'm not going to do anything. And I'm just going to have a normal time wearing a body cam.
I disagree. Yeah. I'm going to make this cornhole in the pregame. Here we go.
Yeah. Woo.
Yeah. What would he do? So I used to go to some games pretty loaded, and there was I had a mohawk back in the day.
Yeah.
And multiple times I actually smacked two different mascots, one at a Blue Claws game, because this person kept trying to touch my hair and I was not having it, and I definitely punched him in the face. Wasn't good. I was a young kid. It happened, but that was probably one of the worst things that I've done in a while while I was a kid.
Yeah.
So the other thing about going to games and stuff, I went to a Bills-Eagles game. Got so trashed in the parking lot. Now, I'm a big drinker, so this is not uncommon, people. I went to we started drinking. Remember those little tiny Heine kegs that came out? They were that little.
I remember those.
Oh yeah, we killed a couple of those at like 10 o'clock in the morning. My dad was not thrilled because he was the driver. So me and my buddy Troy, we got wasted, and we go into the game, and I think we watched probably 1/4 total of the whole football game, because at the time the Devils were doing so well. I don't know what year it was. It could have been 2012. I don't know. When they finally actually made it to the Cup again. So we're out there heckling people saying, "Hey, what place are what place are the Flyers in?" And people thought that we were trying to say like, "Hey, where do they play?" No, we know they play right there, pointing at the whatever stadium.
Where are they placed in the division?
Where the arena. I was like, what place are they in? Because I think they were last. And they were like, well, what place are the Devils in? And, they would say, I think they're in first. And then we'd high five in front of them. But like, that was the kind of dumb, cheeky stuff that we would do. Like, not like, we're not poking fun at your wife and telling her that she's a fucking dumb, ugly cunt. Like, that's just... And also, why didn't they say that to the guy? Like, if you want to like really start some shit, apparently they really didn't want to start some shit. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was mostly that, because if you're wearing a body cam and you're just walking around, debatably you're recording the whole time, and then to only release 46 seconds, and imagine if it happened to you, like the worst 46 seconds of your day, and it gets caught on camera. and then they throw it up on Twitter, and then all of a sudden, like you're there on Sunday, and by Tuesday you don't have a job anymore. I think the punishment was excessive. I think the guy should have just been tossed. And also, I question because if you were shooting it with your phone, you could go down to the usher and say, "This is happening in my section. You got to toss this guy."
I think that's eventually what happened, but to each their own, Dan, with this, like obviously you have an opinion on it. I do as well. And I said, what did I say to you the other day? I was like, suck it. He still got fired.
Yeah. I don't have any sympathy for the guy.
No,
Again,
I just thought it was funny that I said
will say this because I said typical Philadelphia scumbag. I've met a lot, I covered the Philadelphia Flyers. I've met a lot of nice Philadelphia fans. But this shit happens way too often in Philadelphia.
They just have such a reputation. What were they burning down their? All that again. Then again, didn't Toronto do that whenever they didn't make it into
Vancouver rioted when they lost in the 2011 Stanley Cup final. But this has also happened to me elsewhere, like New York, Madison Square Garden. I used to show up all the time wearing Flyers gear. I got threatened with bodily harm. I've gotten threatened with getting a swirly. I mean, it happens, man. You just brush it off. And like for me in those situations, I was either by myself or with my brother or cousin or maybe even my parents, depending on my age. I remember one time my father followed me into the bathroom to make sure that nobody tried to attack me.
Yeah,
but that's
sad. But yeah,
it's the way things go. That's why when I went to the Navy Air Force game for the first time a few years ago, I think that was 2017. I was so taken aback. Actually, I have two stories for this. I was so taken aback that they were all so nice to each other. Like some lady came, an Air Force, so I'm a Navy fan, obviously. And this lady from the Air Force, a bunch of Air Force fans came up. We made too much food. Would you like some? I'm like, what the hell is happening here?
Free stuff.
Yeah. And then I went to Pittsburgh for a Flyers Penguins game. I went there with a friend of mine who lives out there.
Long drive.
Yeah, it's like drive. A 7-hour drive.
Yeah. Nice city though. Yeah. Honestly, great city.
Yeah. And what ended up happening is like the Flyers and Penguins had one of the best rivalries in all of sports at that time. And I was aghast that like the worst that happened to me is that some people booed me as I walked in. I literally stopped and talked to a Flyers fan and be like, dude, what's the deal? Nobody's trying to fight me. Like nobody's like calling me like a faggot or something like that. Like what's going on? And it's like, yeah, they're just genuinely nice people. And I was like disgusted almost because I've lived here for all my life.
It must be on the water. It has to be like like the bullshit. Like we live in the tri-state area where there's a runoff of bullshit water going to Philly or something. I don't get it.
Well, from one asshole to another, Tyreek Hill. You know I'm a Dolphins fan. That actually ate up most of our first episode.
Wait, I have one question before. Sure. Have you ever actually heard of anybody ever getting a swirly? I have never.
Oh, I don't know if those guys have the upper body strength to lift
exactly.
Anyway.
I thought that was funny. I'm like, wait, that's never a thing. That never.
But Tyreek Hill quit on the Dolphins effectively. Yep. You actually sent me a humorous text.
Yep.
Saying like, oh, are you ready to get your ass kicked by Aaron Rodgers in his last game as like an NFL quarterback or something? And I was like, I'll take that trade if the United States beats Canada. I mean, excuse me, if the United States beats Finland for the gold medal in the World Junior Championships. I got that trade, and that was very cool. But one thing I didn't notice, and I went off on Tyreek Hill the first time that we did one of these sports episodes together, Justin.
First one, I think it was the first one.
Yeah, it was. We only did one.
Dos.
Yeah. Because he was very selfish, and you said it too, that he was a diva handling when he was dealing with the police then. And then he just keeps showing that he's a diva and that he's not actually like a leader of this team by effectively saying, well, I'm out.
He's whiny. He just wants he wants the ball all the time. I mean, all the good players want the ball all the time, but you know what? It's a team sport.
And I think I've said this to you, like, you know, while we're hanging out, I would have traded him anyway. I would trade, like, even if he didn't demand to be traded. Yeah. Because it's just like at this point, you're going to be 30 years old. I think he's going to turn 30 if he's not 30 already. He doesn't bring anything to the table other than his speed. Like, he's not going to be like a short possession wide receiver.
He's definitely down a house in Miami, isn't he, from a fire, I believe? But then again, I guess I probably can't make that joke now because of Los Angeles.
Uh-oh. But, so for Tyreek Hill, I would definitely have already explored trying to trade him. Because I think, one, trying to like keep him around after all the stuff with the police, and then he tried to go on this virtue signaling tour. And then you have to build the team around him. And obviously Tua needs help. He needs more of an offensive line. He needs He needs more weapons. He also needs a better running game because like Devon Achane is really good, but like the running game didn't really accomplish as much, especially from last season when it was like one of the best rushing teams. They were one of the best rushing teams in the league.
And what was that? I'm sorry, who the running back last year? I always forget his name.
Raheem Mostert.
Yes.
The problem with those guys is they're kind of
They had a 1-2 with him and the fullback.
Yeah, like him. Alec, what was his name? Alec Ingold.
Mm-hmm,
he doesn't really get a whole lot of touches, but to have Mostert and Achane on the same team is kind of redundant. So I would kind of want to lean more. Remember back in the day, the Giants had, what was it, Ron Dane and Tiki Barber, and they were like Lightning and Thunder or whatever the heck they were called. Something similar to that.
Well, what's Detroit have now? Sonic and Knuckles, I believe it is. Montgomery and I can't remember the other guy. He's so fucking fast.
I did not know that they were nicknamed that.
Sonic and Knuckles.
Sonic and Knuckles. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Growing up as a Sonic the
Absolutely,
Hedgehog
it's awesome.
video game fan.
I want to say Montgomery was hurt. I think he was Sonic. I'm not the biggest fan of Detroit. I mean, I don't remember who's Sonic, who's Knuckles, but yeah, Sonic and Knuckles.
I still like that.
Go on. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying because we both looked into this too of possible places that he could go because the NFL is different in terms of how they make trades. It's not like the NHL. The NHL, you can make a blockbuster trade where you just trade, it's an old example, but like Eric Lindros, where they traded half a team practically to get him. And they seem to be doing that more often in the salary cap age. But with the NFL, it's more like you're making trades and then you're getting like draft compensation for it. And so for Tyreek Hill, he's still a really good wide receiver. I'm not doubting his skill, but he seems to be more like a headache. And he needs to go to a place where they'll actually like be disciplined. And we were talking off camera, and you said like the Chargers would be a good spot for him.
So here's a question, and I just thought of this now, and I'm just thinking about it. How much older is Odell Beckham Jr. compared to Tyreek Hill? Do you know offhand? I'm just curious because if you look at what happened to him, because he was supposed to be this like mega star, and then fizzled the fuck out. Like that guy was like really good. He had the amazing catch, and then like I feel like
went to the Browns.
It's kind of the same thing. Like if you think about it, like Tyreek Hill he's amazing. Like he won 2 Super Bowls
won a Super Bowl,
Chiefs? Lost
another one.
Yeah, I mean the guy's like fantastic, but like too big for your britches. You know that's you know what I'm saying. Like it just. I feel like these they get this superstar god mentality, and it's like I'm the best. I want the ball. Give me it now, or I'm going home, and I'm going to take the ball with me.
Yeah, that definitely seems like what he was doing because, I mean, I don't necessarily blame guys that demand trades and all that stuff, but the manner in which he did it is so kind of like
uncouth.
Yeah,
uncouth.
It's very diva-y, but I don't necessarily blame him too because if you look at the way the Dolphins are run with Mike McDaniel, we've had this discussion off camera too, where. I mean, I like the offensive stuff he's done with the Dolphins. I thought like it actually got me into watching the Dolphins again. I was kind of like blasé on watching them just because it's like same old.
That Hard Knocks really got. Honestly, I watched the Hard Knocks on HBO, and I was like, I'm kind of rooting for the Dolphins a little bit this year. I'm not gonna lie. I don't have an NFL team, so we're clear.
But what ended up happening for me is like they came back against the Ravens 2 years ago, I believe it is now, and I watched that game and I'm like, holy crap, it's like Tecmo Super Bowl. Just watching them like lob passes and it's like touchdown. They came back from like a 35-14 deficit in the fourth quarter alone to win like not even having to go into overtime. So it's an exciting brand of offense.
Touchdown.
Yeah. It's an exciting brand of offense, but this year it wasn't. And you can blame Tua getting hurt, but even when Tua was in, it wasn't very exciting.
His check down was so fast that nothing happened, and he just kept slinging it to the running back. Yeah. So I'm assuming that's what happened, right?
He was checking down very often to their tight end, Jonnu Smith, which was a good move, but it seems to me like Mike McDaniel is just too much of a player's coach. And I think it's very interesting if you just because they're going to keep him and they're going to keep Chris Greer, their general manager. And Chris Greer, in my opinion, should have gotten the axe. Because how do you go into the season? You know Tua's prone to injury. And you go into the season with Skylar Thompson as your backup quarterback and no real third-string quarterback. And I think that's just, negligent asset management. Mm-hmm. And I agree with not giving, like, who was it?
Mike White.
Robert Hunt, like $100 million. I
don't know that guy.
Offensive line.
Oh, okay.
Offensive lineman. And then, like, Christian Wilkinson, I'm forgetting it. I'm blanking on his name right now, but he got I think like over $100 million as well in his deal. So I understand like not being able to re-sign these guys because they're cashing in on free agency, but in order to like fix your team, you got to like plug those holes. And instead, they didn't really plug any of the holes on the offensive line. And there's no way they're going to be able to be.
Biggest key with football. Like,
yeah.
Look at Aaron Rodgers. Look at the Jets.
Yeah.
They folded. I mean, he was terrible. I like Aaron Rodgers, by the way.
I would say that too. That's something that I wanted to throw at you too. Is in terms of like, because there's a whole lot of overrating of wide receivers, in my opinion. Like having a great wide receiver is a nice to have. But it's actually, in my opinion, everyone wants to say like, oh, you got to have an elite quarterback. Have an elite quarterback. And you can see with Kansas City Chiefs and then before that, New England Patriots, how important that was.
Yeah.
I think it is just as important to have either an elite offensive line or just a great offensive line. Because if you have an elite level quarterback, he can kind of cover some of the holes of that offensive line that may be average, like a Peyton Manning just gets the ball out so quick that it's gone. And all I got to do is protect for like 2 seconds. But if you're got like an average, maybe not an average quarterback because he can still make dumb decisions, but you have like a good to great quarterback, maybe potentially he's not going to win you a Super Bowl. But if you have an elite level offensive line, you might have a shot at doing that, especially if you can get the running game attached to that, which I think the Dolphins sorely need to eat up the clock.
No, I totally agree. So, what's sad about about football is that like no one knows the names of the offensive linemen unless you played football and you are like a big man and you cover like people of your stature and what position you played for being an offensive lineman. You don't know those guys. You see the one guy from the Rams who's on the television now for what is it? I think it's the Amazon coverage. He actually was at the LA Rams game in Arizona for the playoff game, and he was pepping up all the people because of all the fires. I don't know his name now, but my point is that like you don't know the names of these guys. But those dudes are like the lifeblood. Those guys are like those what are those horses for Budweiser? They're the fucking
the Clydesdales.
They're the fucking Clydesdales, dude. Like those, they really are. They're the bread and butter of the organization. You just have like Patrick Mahomes making all the money because he can sling the ball because he has such great protection. Then again, he can move. Lamar Jackson wins MVP because he can run. That's the way that's another way that the game is moving now because quarterbacks need to be so mobile. Yeah. Maybe because you can't get an offensive line to block so well. And also that being said, I'll the other side of the coin on that is that you have a lot of offensive linemen who have hold penalties because your quarterback is scrambling so much that they don't know where you're going.
Yeah, that's true. I do think it is important. Like. One other thing attached to having that mobile quarterback is just the ability to now you've made the defense have to compensate for that. So now you have to waste a linebacker on spying on Lamar Jackson. Mm-hmm. And Lamar Jackson is absolutely benefiting from having Derrick Henry on his team too.
Absolutely. Who saw that coming? I had no idea he was going to wow.
But that's my thesis of that too, is that Tua is injury prone. And the best way to go forward, I know you paid him like you're paying him $250 million over the course of, what is that, like 6 years? I can't remember the exact deal. But the best way to protect that guy is to get yourself not just a quick strike running game, because that's what they always had. It's to have a slow, eat the clock run game as well. Because that way, all you got to do is hand off the ball to whoever, 4 yards. Hand off the ball to him again, 3 yards. All right, now pitch it to Devon Achane. All right, maybe he got like 17 yards on that. Just the idea is just like eat clock.
That's how. Who did the Rams just beat? The Vikings.
Yeah,
that's how the Rams just beat the Vikings. They, I think I want to say. Don't quote me on this because I can't remember shit, but I'm pretty sure it was the first quarter. I want to say the Rams drove for like 6 minutes or 7 minutes or some shit all the way down. Like they eventually scored, but like just like you said, eating up clock. I'm sure they didn't mean to do that on purpose, or maybe they did. I don't know. I don't know the game plan with that, but also I can't believe the Rams actually took that game because the Vikings.
Yeah.
Don't look how well they did this year.
And now they're going to be running into a situation where they have to make a decision with Sam Darnold because he's up for free agency. And And they lost J.J. McCarthy, who was out of Michigan. They had won the national championship with him. And he got hurt before the year and obviously never came back. I would also jokingly say they also have Daniel Jones, but every Giants fan listening to this would be absolutely appalled with that statement. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting decision that the Vikings have to make now. I am kind of the opinion that if you have this rookie, he's not really tested, you need a buffer. So if you can keep Sam Darnold, then keep him. But it has to be for not that much money.
Absolutely.
Because you can't, if you sign Sam Darnold to a ridiculous contract to keep him because we were so good and we'll just only get better, and then he regresses, and then you have JJ McCarthy and you put him in and he starts playing well, you have yourself an Atlanta Falcons situation with what happened to Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix. So I that's my opinion. What do you think?
So honestly, I love that the Falcons actually put in Penix because I wanted to see that kid play. I also we both agree with this. I like watching a lefty throw the football. I love the way the ball spirals the other way. It's just fun to watch. Anyway, but with Penix coming in and Kirk Cousins, I always thought Kirk Cousins was just whatever quarterback. He was just the guy doing the job, but I don't know. You know what? I'll throw it back to you, Giants fans. That was like when Hostetler came in for Phil Simms.
Deep cut.
So, but then again, I was a child when that. I was probably like 10 whenever he came in. Was he that good? I don't know. Was Frank Reich as good as better than Jim Kelly? I don't know, but he did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But so here we are again with Sam Darnold coming in for, now I know he's the veteran quarterback, for JJ McCarthy. JJ McCarthy should absolutely get some reps, 100%. He needs to play because then again, I never actually watched him at Michigan. Apparently he is as good as they say, right?
If I'm going to the college game to the pro game is so substantially different.
Yeah.
And also going back to the Sam Darnold situation, you don't know if this is a fluke or not.
Right.
So you don't want to run into a situation where you're paying this guy all sorts of money and then Daniel Jones is on you.
Well, yeah, he fizzled out in his first playoff game.
Or and the unfortunate thing is I don't want to dime out Kirk Cousins. I've told a lot of people, just in my friends group and my family, that I don't get it. I never got it with him. He was a fourth round pick of the Redskins. The only reason he was starting for Washington after the fact was because RG3 blew out his knees.
Yep, I remember that.
But listen, in this state of the NFL, quarterbacks get very much overrated. The Dolphins picked Ryan Tannehill 8th overall. I think that was the exact number, to be their quarterback. Teams are convinced that you absolutely 100% need a great quarterback and they will reach in the draft. And that's why everyone was so perplexed about Michael Penix, because there's you just signed Kirk Cousins for all this money. Why would you draft Michael Penix in the first round? It's actually turning out to be not that dumb of an idea because Kirk Cousins coming off of that major, ACL tear?
I think so, yeah.
He's that turns out to be the saving grace. It's all right, we got a few more reps for Michael Penix because Kirk Cousins was not playing well. It's actually very interesting to see how both of these quarterbacks that suffered those major injuries, I think both Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins had ACL tears, and they got back real quicker than you rightfully probably should. And you watch
medicine. Yeah, sports medicine now these days is just, it's
incredible. But then also you can see in real time that quarterback just absolutely lose everything. They lost. It looked very much like Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins lost all of their zip on their footballs this season.
So you're not wrong with that, Aaron Rodgers for sure. But we can also bring that right back to the O-line. Yeah. The O-line's terrible. The dude's 40. Let's go back. I don't know the numbers, but what? All right. So didn't Aaron Rodgers win MVP about 4 years ago ish? I think it was actually 2022.
Really?
I could be wrong about that, but I know that he had a pretty good season, either 2022, 2021, somewhere around there. I'm pretty sure he made the playoffs with the Packers and I think he made MVP. Anyway,
yeah.
O-line. If you got to rush the ball, of course you're gonna take some zip off of it. You can't plant. You're not gonna be able to release properly. You're rushed. It is what it is. But with Sam Darnold, we were talking about Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
So I honestly think that he I don't know, he's in the hot seat right now.
Yeah.
He definitely faced a lot going into the playoffs, and I think he fizzled out. But look what he did with the Jets.
But here's what I'm going to say to this too. There's more teams out there that need a quarterback and will overpay to get Sam Darnold. They will
They all do. They all seem to do this, which is just.
So it'll be interesting to see. If I'm the Vikings, I would bring him back, but at the right price. But also what I would do, if we can shift gears on this too, I know you're not a big college football fan, but we did watch that amazing Texas-Arizona State game.
That was a really good game.
I don't want to stay too much on that game. I wanted to actually talk a little bit about how the playoff is structured, because I'm a bigger college football fan than I am a pro football fan. And the way they structured this college football playoff, and it's actually not getting the ratings that they expected, although when you get 20 million views on a football game and you're complaining about it, I just don't understand that. But
let me just interrupt you. I would love to hear what you have to say, but I just wanted to say I didn't know that they reached, like we just talked about. Like, I am not a big college football fan. Was born in Pennsylvania, Penn State fan. I'll always be a Penn State fan just because I live there. I was born there anyway. But what I'm saying to you is that, like, I just recently found out that they changed the structure for college football championships like all the time. I had no idea this was a thing. Yeah. Like I know they changed the Big Ten, the Pac-12, the Big Four. I don't fucking know. But they changed it all the time. But I didn't know that they changed the way the championship is staggered or whatever.
It used to be, way back in the day, you had no playoff. You were given the national championship base if you had the most amount of votes for the first overall ranking at the end of bowl season. Yeah, okay. Because it was just a part of the polls. And then after that, they did this thing called the BCS, where you would get a computer would figure out who was the national champion, and then after that,
computer.
Yeah, they would just use like a computer like data and all that stuff. That was called like the BCS, the Bowl Championship Series. And then after that, and then you were still playing in your bowl, and you would be it would be determined like who's the national champion after playing all these bowls. No real national championship game to be had. And then they added that in to like the 1 and the 2 seeds, and they still had the regular bowl games like the Orange Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, all of those. And then they did away with that because they figured they could make more money by doing a 4-game playoff. And the 4-game playoff got a lot of controversy last year because Florida State went undefeated in the ACC, but their quarterback got hurt. Travis Jordan, I believe his name is. And like I don't remember his particular injury, but he was out. He was not coming back. And then they played the ACC championship game without him, and they won, but they only won because of their defense. So they're 13-0, and they got jumped by Alabama and Texas, who had losses. And everyone was kind of like, well, you just didn't bring this team in. Why didn't you bring in Florida State? It was like, well, we didn't bring in Florida State because they weren't going to be one of the best teams. Their quarterback's hurt. Yeah, sure, they won the ACC, but they weren't going to be one of the best teams. So they're just going to get smoked by, if they got on the 4th seed, got in as the 4th seed, they're going to get smoked by Georgia. I think Georgia was the 1st seed. So they're just going to get smoked. So for this upcoming season, they figured out, well, more playoff games means more money. So they updated it to 12 teams. But the way my criticism of it is the way that it's structured.
Same way they gave the NFL one more game or 2 more games this year. It's just money.
Yeah, the 17th game, which infinitely confuses me because I'm like 8-8. All right, another 8-8 season. It's like, no, there's another game. Oh, okay. So the way they structure it in college football is not the top 4 teams, but the 4 top ranked conference champion winners get a bye. And that's how Arizona State was able to get a bye and play that game against Texas, despite the fact that they were ranked, like, if I can remember correctly, like 16th. Like, they were not one of the best teams in college football. But Texas was habitually like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, somewhere around that range. Boise State got a bye. Boise State actually got the higher seed bye. They got the 3 seed and a bye, and then played Penn State.
I was going to say, Boise, with the blue turf field. So stupid.
And a lot of one of the biggest quote unquote travesties to it is that Oregon was the only team that was undefeated. They went 13-0 their first season in the Big Ten, and in their first game they had to go up against Ohio State, who
they got smoked.
They got smoked. Or Ohio State had just smoked Tennessee, and I was really relying on that game to be good because I think you and I went out and had a few had a few cold ones.
Yeah.
And so I went home and I was like, nope, just going to watch this game. And I regretted every decision I had made that day because I'm like, oh, good. I just completely wasted this Saturday night on this game. And my criticism of this is because you are not rewarding your best. Like, college football likes to say that it has the most meaningful regular season, it has the fewest amount of games, but every game is sort of like a playoff game because if you lose, then your chances of winning a national championship go down.
Your seed just keeps going down, down, down.
So what happened though with Oregon being undefeated and having to play the fourth ranked or arguably the second best or the team that's playing Notre Dame in the national championship game, you have to go through them rather than having to go through a reseeded, the lowest ranked team, or having to go through, I don't know, anyone else. Because if you were looking at this, who are the 4 best teams in college football? You would go, all right, Oregon, number 1. You could make a case, Georgia, number 2. 3, you could say, let's just go with Texas.
I was going to say Texas, yeah.
And then 4, you could either go, Penn State because they went to the Big Ten championship game, or Ohio State.
Oh, no, yeah.
Because Ohio State was just one of those teams that, like, listen, they got kind of like their playoff positioning kind of got screwed because they lost that game to Michigan. It was a huge rivalry game. It's one of the most known. It's one of the most. It's one of the biggest rivalry games in all of sports.
What's that?
Ohio State, Michigan.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely knew that. Yeah. I wanted to see, for one sec, I really wanted to see Penn State fucking beat Ohio State in the championship game because I know Ohio State has Penn State's number like hard. Yeah. But didn't happen.
Yeah. Penn State had plenty of opportunities to win that game too.
Just couldn't throw the ball.
Yeah.
He wasn't.
But it was also like Penn State had that game under complete control until essentially the second half.
Honestly, their Notre Dame's backup quarterback came in and started slinging the ball, and I think we talked about this. And they changed the game plan.
Well, what happened was, and I value this so much. They call it winning the middle 4. I call them swing points. If you can score, if you have the ball with the last possession of the first half, right. And you can score, and then you get the ball back first in the beginning of the second half, then you can completely swing a game one way or the other. Yeah. And that's what Notre Dame did against Penn State. They were down 10-0. Penn State just seemed to have complete control of the game, and then field goal to end the first half, touchdown to begin the second half. It's practically 0-0 now. It's a brand new ball game. And Penn State, they didn't do much wrong. They just didn't really capitalize on their opportunities, and they just had one bad turnover. And that's essentially what cost them that game.
Yeah, it's sad. It is what it is. Like I said, I'm not the biggest Penn State fan, but I don't have any Penn State stuff. But that is my team for football. I don't have an NFL team. I like watching Aaron Rodgers play for as little time he has left. Was big Joe Montana fan before that, but
I was also gonna throw out the what I would do to fix the college football playoff. I would have the top 4 get the bye. Like, let's not even talk about like completely restructuring the college football playoff. Like not change the amount of teams that make it in. Sometimes, like, some people are throwing out 8. I heard Joel Klatt of Fox Sports, like he does the big Fox games. He said 14, which would add another 2 games to the equation, if I'm not mistaken, because you're just eliminating byes and you're adding more games to the first round. So I think you can still make 12 work. You just need to restructure how it's done. And just first and foremost, for the top 4. If you're in the top 5 conference champions, get the automatic bid, but you're not going to get an automatic bye. I think that's the first one that you need to do. What else would I actually? Because I had this all like worked out. Now I'm starting to think of like, wait, which one would I actually do?
I would weigh in here, but like again,
yeah, no, I let's see. All right, so you reseed after and that would be it. Reseed after the first round as well. So what they did is they bracket it. So like, all right, if you're Oregon, you're guaranteed to either play Tennessee or Ohio State. In this scenario, if Tennessee was the lowest ranking team, that would be the only way they would play Oregon. So if you got like an upset in there, which they didn't. Oh, and another thing that I would do as well is that they need to value strength of schedule. So,
oh, true. Yeah, absolutely.
because there are a lot of teams that got soft schedules, like Indiana was one of them, that they didn't really play anybody, and if they played somebody that was like a big time team like Ohio State, they lost.
You just got smoked. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, they did put up a reasonable fight for a little bit, but then they had like a block punt and all that stuff. But you need to put more emphasis on building out a really good resume for a college football schedule, because it's not like the NFL, it's not like the NHL. You, to a degree, you can make your own schedule. Like the Big Ten, your conference will obviously make that part of the schedule, but you can make agreements with other programs to do out of conference games. And so if you're Indiana and you want to put in to have like a chance to make the college football playoff, then you can't be playing like East Illinois or something like that. If you're Alabama, you can't be playing USF. I know that's your like, you want to have a couple cupcake games in there, because if you're Alabama, you're going to have a tough schedule because you're going to play like Tennessee and, you know, a whole bunch of teams. You're going to play LSU. You're going to play some teams that are really tough. But don't play like Chattanooga.
Yeah.
Because like you're already got a few, like you're Alabama. Some of these games are already going to be cupcakes for you. I know you have a really tough SEC schedule, but like at the same time, you might want to give the College Football Playoff Committee something to actually look at and be like, all right, this team, not only did they, you know,
fight for something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like if you want to give the College Football Playoff Committee a reason to be like, all right, this is why we need Alabama in the college football playoff. Not only, well, they had 2 losses in the SEC. Well, the SEC is a tough conference, but they beat, you know, Notre Dame. They beat, Indiana. They beat somebody out of conference to really boost their resume. And that really seemed to be something that the College Football Playoff Committee for this season didn't really value.
So I have a question for you. It is college football related.
It's
college football related.
Okay.
You ready? What do we think is going to happen with Bill Belichick and UNC?
It's very interesting that you asked me that question, because I was pondering that. Because I saw something that he didn't even sign the deal yet.
Oh, really?
I don't. It's
I saw him sport. I saw him sporting a UNC shirt on like the Pat McAfee show, I think.
Yeah, and I think they already like did the press conference or something. So I'm like, whatever. I'm not spreading whatever.
No. Maybe you do. Maybe you know. Maybe you don't know. It is what it is.
But it'll be interesting if the rumors are incorrect and he actually does not go to the NFL. And he stays at UNC. I'm going to be very interested to see what he does in North Carolina, because he is a professional football coach.
Yeah.
And
one of the best.
Yeah.
If not the best.
But he also, like, it's a completely different landscape in college football right now.
The children that you're preparing for men.
Yeah, but also NIL and the transfer portal.
Oh, right. That's right.
Perpetual free agency. And then some guys will get paid. Here's a stat for you. Every starting quarterback in the SEC makes more through NIL than Brock Purdy of the San Francisco 49ers.
Mr. What is it? Mr. Uneligible or
yeah.
What the fuck's that?
Yeah, what was that?
Non-irresistible.
Yes. But
superintendent.
So you're in this position now where you have to constantly contend with the shifting dynamic of like, okay, I'm going to go out and recruit this guy, and then I'm going to lose him because he's going to go to Alabama, or is he going to go to USC, or he's going to go to Notre Dame. How are you going to build? Like, he can do the same thing, but how good is he going to be able to do that? Because he was always kind of like a buttoned up, tight ass to begin with. Is he going to be able to go and make those recruiting trips to get that 5-star recruit to come to North Carolina? Now, he himself is a nice little recruiting tool because he's Bill Belichick. Like, holy shit, I can learn under Bill Belichick if I go to North Carolina.
Yeah, tutelage, absolutely.
But we'll see, because Deion Sanders did a hell of a job in Colorado. I remember when he got hired.
His first or second year, but then
it was his second year.
Yeah, he didn't do great like the next year, I don't think.
No, his first year he only won 4 games.
Okay.
This past season they went to a bowl.
Okay.
So they were actually in contention to get the playoff spot for the Big 12, but ended up not getting it because they didn't have because they lost too many games. They just lost one game too many.
This portal thing that you mentioned, it blows my mind because I don't know. I'm gonna bring a sports movie into the aspect here of that blows my mind because of Watch the movie Blue Chips from like 1994 with Shaquille O'Neal and Nolte. What's his name? Not Nick. Yeah, Nick Nolte.
Yeah, that's Nick Nolte.
It's got Anthony Hardaway in it. You watch that movie, and it's all about the shit where they're paying these players to come to play at their dinky like place of college, and it's like, and now you have these kids that want to go and like, give me $1 million, and I'll be your offensive lineman, and it's like, what? This is insane.
I think it's just so interesting.
Insane.
I want to learn more about how NIL affects not like basketball because it's pretty much the same way.
Same stuff.
I would like to know how it is affecting college baseball and college hockey more, particularly college hockey because I like college hockey more. But that's something I'm going to have to look into at a later day.
Yeah, that's the only. Honestly, football is the one they only ever talk about because like they don't. I have no idea. Did they do this for base? Did you have any idea if they even did this kind of stuff
universal.
for others?
I think it's universal. Like NIL is still around because a gymnast for LSU. Her name is I don't know if she's still in college or not, but her name is Olivia Dunn. She makes a lot of money. Why? Because she's cute. She's really freaking cute. So I mean, if you can be a great quarterback and make a shit ton of money. There were rumors that Quinn Ewers, the quarterback for Texas,
right, Texas, yeah,
he was that Notre Dame was preparing a $6 million NIL package for him to go to the Irish.
Where does this money come from?
Exactly.
What?
Well, donors for one thing, like people just.
That's the boosters?
Yeah,
all
boosters.
The shit?
Yep.
That's insane to me.
Yeah.
Insane where this money comes from.
It's ridiculous. And now there's going to be a profit sharing with the players. Going forward too, because I think the players just won a lawsuit against the NCAA.
So I'm assuming that's for like commercials and stuff like that, or
no,
like
the NIL is technically for commercials. This one would actually be like they're legitimately paying the players because they're athletes. I'm not a big fan of this, just because like a lot of people have said like, oh, just pay the players because the colleges are making so much money. I would agree that the colleges make a shit ton of money off of the backs of these players. But what is this going to do with the lower, the nonprofit, so to speak, programs?
Here's something to think about. Like, what does kids that go to these schools think about this kind of stuff that like are not sports people
that are not athletes?
They're just going there. They got to figure out how to get there. They got either the scholarships or they're paying out the ass to like be there. And then you got what's his name, Quinn, whatever the fuck.
Quinn Ewers,
yeah. He's like this hot shit thing, whatever. And it's like, is he even going to make the NFL? Probably not. If he is, he's going to be a third stringer. But he's making more money than Brock Purdy, who's playing in the NFL. But then again, you're going to school for 4 years, 6 years, 8 years to, I don't know, be a doctor.
Did you hear about this story?
This is just crazy to me.
The starting quarterback for Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia, he sued the NCAA for more eligibility so he can stay in college because his argument was that his JUCO, junior college years shouldn't count.
Was that the tight end?
No, it was a quarterback for Vanderbilt. And they won. And he won. So now he's like, he forced the NCAA to stay, that like, I need to stay in college because he'll make more money in college than he ever will in the NFL if he ever even goes to the NFL.
So are they actually, do these college kids actually get degrees? Right?
Well, I mean,
I want to stay in college one more year to get paid.
Yeah.
But you're taking up somebody else's seat here on campus to like, that could be a member of society in like a positive way, but you're playing fucking football.
So you mentioned Hard Knocks. You mentioned Hard Knocks before with the Miami Dolphins. There was a college football version of that, like a season with or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but they did one with my favorite team in college, Navy.
Navy, yeah.
And the one joke that then coach Ken Niumatalolo made. Well, I mean, he's Hawaiian, so it's going to be like that. He showed a little like he did what was it, like the orientation or whatever, just had a meeting with the players, and he was showing them like a list of all the teams. I can't remember exactly what the context was, but he had highlighted Stanford and Navy, and his joke was, those are the two schools where we actually go to class. So for the most part, I know I've gone to Quinnipiac and I've seen the hockey players go to class. So I think they're
really makes you wonder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, and then you have let's say these not that like I'm the biggest person on academic achievements. That's but still you should have you should be, if you're going to college, you should be, there's a reason why you go to college. It's to fucking learn stuff. I mean, but I just don't like the idea of getting paid to go to college, and getting paid to go to college is just bananas to me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's the exact opposite of what Maurice Claret sued to do because way back in like 2002, he was a running back, I think for Ohio State. Maybe I'm mistaken in that. Maybe it was Miami. I can't remember. But he sued. I think the NFL, or maybe it's the NCAA, because he was a sophomore or something, or a freshman, I believe, and he wanted to be eligible. He wanted to declare for the NFL. And they're like, no, you can't do that. You need to play at least one more year. And then I think he got hurt that next year because he just wanted to cash in on when his stock was the highest, and it was obviously after that year.
I got another question for you. It's not college related. It's NFL related.
Sure.
So, recently, Saquon Barkley was just benched the last game of the season, even though he was, I believe, about 100 yards away from
we talked about this. It was about 101 yards away from breaking
the rushing record of Eric Dickerson. Yeah. That was, I think, 2,000 something yards in 15 games.
16? It was
16.
The 16. It was the 16 game schedule.
Yeah.
Because we had a discussion about that.
That's right.
When they switch over from 14 to 16. So, what's your question, buddy?
Oh, more so, it's just what do you do you think it was okay for him to get benched? Do you think it was a mutual decision between Barkley and the Eagles so he could play in the playoffs? Or
from what I saw of how Saquon Barkley was handling his time in Philadelphia, he seemed pretty selfless. So I think maybe it was just kind of like, hey, we don't need you to break the record, because it's 100 yards is not easy.
That's a team player for sure.
But they definitely need him to win a Super Bowl. And when you have to go through the NFC, it's kind of wide open. So if you go way too hard in to try to just break a record just for this one guy and put Saquon over the rest of the team, that kind of sends the wrong message too. So I see there were people feeling like, oh, put him in, have him break the record. And I was like, the only way you really do that is if you're at the 1 yard line, you hand the ball off to him, you orchestrate this play where it's like a run and then he just gets 99 yards, and all right, you practically have it. So now all you got to do is a couple dives and you're good, and just rest him for the rest of the game.
Well, to your point, you saw what the Buccaneers did for Mike Evans tying Jerry Rice's record? Did you hear about this?
I did not hear about this.
So Mike Evans was close to I think he was tying Jerry Rice's all-time catches, yards. I think it's yards after catch or something like that. It was a lot of yards. I don't know. I don't know all the details, but I think he was 6 yards away from tying it. And apparently there was an unspoken agreement between the Buccaneers and whatever other team that they were playing that day. I can't remember that. And it was one of the last plays of the game. They fucking let him have it. Yeah, they were like, go ahead. Make it happen. They did it, and he threw the ball down, did the whole thing. Yeah, I fucking got it. That's bullshit. Unspoken agreement. Get out of here.
All right, buddy. Let's wrap this up with some hockey talk.
Let's do it.
So I haven't watched too much NHL, but I can tell you what I did watch. I watched the World Junior Championships, and that was incredible.
I have questions.
Very good. The one thing that I have to tell you, though, it is being a USA Hockey fan. That's kind of where I've, staked my claim.
Yeah.
They don't win anything beyond 20 years old. It's just because it's harder to get the players and all that stuff. So seeing the kids that are under 20, 19, 18, 17, all that stuff for 2 straight years, not only beat Canada, but then win the gold medal is incredible. It's become now that USA Hockey, now with the 4 nations face-off coming, in my opinion, they seem to be the favorites because they have the best goaltending, and they seem to have maybe they don't have the best forward group, maybe they don't have the best defensive core, but altogether they seem to have the best team. And it's looking really, really good to me in terms of that USA Hockey, as long as they don't do USA Hockey things blow it at the end, like they did in, 2010 against Canada. Oh boy. But it seems to me that USA Hockey is now turning into an absolute juggernaut. And I absolutely love that. And I hope that it actually comes to fruition because they are the best program in the under 18 tournament. They have the most gold medals in that tournament. They've won 2 straight gold medals in the World Junior Championships, and they've had a few more in the prior years. And if they can actually win this 4 nations face-off, it gives them a lot of good mojo going into the Olympics, which comes next year.
I have a lot of people that I know that used to play hockey back in the day. I got one of my friends' kids that would, like, when he was up and coming, he was going. I think he stayed at somebody's house in like Minnesota to join a team. I know it is brutally fucking hard to become a hockey player because you are basically born with skates, doing the thing until it's that you're that age. But you think you're good,
no.
Then it's like you get on the ice with somebody else and it's like, huh. I mean, that's how I understand it anyway.
And let me sell you on the World Junior Championships. So under there, it's pretty much like so the way Canada works in terms of their developmental leagues.
I've always wanted to watch it, but I just never really, I don't know.
It's kind of hard to watch in terms of like knowing when it's going to be on, because sometimes it's in Canada. It's often in Canada because it's big there. Like, think college football in the South. That's what the World Junior Championships is to Canada. Like, they absolutely get into it.
Well, you used the word juggernaut before, didn't you? I've always felt like Canada has always been the
juggernaut in hockey. And that was actually one of the things that, like, should I actually say this?
So Canada used to be the juggernaut.
Yeah, Canada used to be the juggernaut, but I would even still claim that they are still a juggernaut because they put together a lot of really good players. And they're like, what was it, 2021 when Team USA beat them? Their entire lineup, or at least their entire forward core, were just all first-round picks. And that's actually one of the better reasons, like, I'm selling you on watching the World Junior Championships. You get to see all of the young players, like all the prime young players that are going to be in the NHL at one point because they're first-round picks, maybe second-round picks, or guys that are going to be first-round picks in the upcoming draft. And you get to watch them play and see how they handle the big time. Like Cole Caulfield, who's on Montreal, played in the World Junior Championship.
That's a hockey name for sure.
Yeah. So you're just going to run in. You're going to, and then also too, the way that I would really sell this too, like, not only do you get to see all of the upcoming young talent that the NHL is going to get, but the rivalries are so much better because it's not like, oh, well, like, you're a Devils fan.
Yeah.
So like Devils Rangers, big rivalry, right? In international hockey, it's all based on like geopolitics. So like the United States and Russia, obviously, before, Russia got kicked out of the tournament because of the Ukraine invasion. But then you also get like Finland and Russia. And it's like, well, why are they rivals? Well, look into some history between Finland and Russia.
Yeah.
The Czech Republic, now called Czechia. Czechia. And Russia. A lot of this has to do with Russia, but it's fantastic when you just see like the European crowds. Like when you can watch one of these tournaments, like in Europe, like for the men's championship, the World Championship that usually happens right around the playoffs in May, the NHL playoffs in May. You can hear like these crowds like in Latvia going absolutely ape shit. Like it is the closest thing that I can really tie it together, other than the easiest comparison, which is Europe and soccer or football, is the South with college football. It is like it's an experience. I think the tamest crowds are here because hockey is not what it ought to be. However, I will tell you, I live for this stuff now. I like the World Junior Championships is going to be in Minnesota come Christmas time this year.
You're gonna go?
I hope so. I would hope to go, but then again, I got to go away from work. My brother, I think, is already planning on going, so I would love to be able to go there because hockey is my favorite sport. Navy might be my favorite team, but hockey is my favorite sport, and it's so nice just to be able to root for a team again. So that's how I get into it.
Dan liked the Flyers at one point.
Well, I covered the Flyers. I said that already. But yeah, I think that we're the World Junior Championships. International hockey is like, there's a lot of tournaments for me to watch upcoming. I already got through the World Junior Championships. Now the 4 Nations face-off is coming. And then I can switch over to college hockey because we'll have in March the conference championship the conference tournaments, and then the national championship Frozen Four tournament. And then from there, it's in May or April, late April, you have the under 18 international tournament. Wow. And then the world championships.
And those kids just don't give a shit. They're just gonna like do whatever. Like,
what do you mean?
I would assume the under 18, like they're there to play, but they're kind of going all out. Like,
well, the interesting thing about watching that tournament is that since they're so young, they'll make basic mistakes, even though they're very talented. Like,
pass when you should pass, not don't bring it all the way in. Yeah,
take too many penalties. Like Team USA lost the gold medal against Sweden one year because Sweden's goaltender was just playing lights out, and just Team USA could not stay out of the box. But Team USA was easily the best team that year. Like they were out shooting Sweden, I think, in that game like 54-18, but they just couldn't stay out of the box. And Sweden took advantage of their power play opportunities. And in hockey, especially in one game, make too many freaking mistakes, that'll happen.
Yeah.
But I would recommend that to all of you out there and to you. If you get a chance right around Christmas time, the hardest thing to do is finding it, is because it's going to be on the NHL Network, and it's probably going to be on at like 2 p.m. or sometimes like 9 a.m.
on a Monday.
And then on a Monday, Tuesday. What you would have to do to really get into it is you would have to just fire up your DVR.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's how you do it. You're the king of that.
Yeah.
Recording, watching it. This man religiously records football and watches it at any time, all the time. Yeah, he loves it.
College football and international hockey, I record it all the time. Also, before we wrap this up, real quick, I have to say this. Circling back to college football.
Do it.
Navy beat Army, and I, as I said it to you, like we met up, I think that night at the bar. I was happier than a pig in shit.
Oh man, this man had the biggest smile. It was so funny.
It just hits different.
He probably would have bought the entire bar around if he could. Well, he would have, but he didn't think of it.
I did not think of it, and also at the same time, I don't think they would have appreciated it.
None of those people would even give a fuck.
Yeah, no, nobody would have cared. But I think I just absolutely that game is pretty much the reason why I like sports. Like I grew up watching that. It was like one of those situations when I was little. My brother was big into Army football. And so I'm like, who's that? Who are they playing there? It's like Navy. It's their biggest rival. I was like, I want to be a Navy fan. And then it just went from there. Like I joined the Navy and all that stuff. I've been watching Navy football for so long that it's like, there are sometimes I'm like, oh, who the hell was that player? And it's like, I know his name's in the back of my mind, but I'm just like, yeah. Oh, and then, or it'll rush forward. Like, remember that one time where Navy beat Temple because Temple, for some reason, didn't take a knee. They just ran the ball up the middle. Navy stripped them and then ran into the end zone and scored a touchdown at the last minute. So Navy had a spectacular season. They lost a couple games. Like they lost to Rice. They got absolutely punked by Notre Dame. I went to that game. I actually went to the game, the Notre Dame Army game as well. And Army got punked by Notre Dame as well. But that makes sense. Notre Dame went all the way to the national championship game, so obviously a good team. And then Navy got blown out by Tulane, and so that's why I was kind of like trepidatious going into the Army Navy game because Army had blown out Tulane. So I was like, is everything I've ever believed a lie?
What team?
Tulane.
Tulane?
Yeah, they're I think New Orleans, Louisiana.
Tulane.
Yeah. And then not only did they beat Army, which was awesome, and then they got to play Oklahoma. And Oklahoma is a college football blue blood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oklahoma, the reason that Alabama didn't make it to the playoffs is because people kept pointing to, Alabama got blown out by Oklahoma. And Oklahoma was not really all that great this year. They were 6-6. Now, I will give this.
Oklahoma came out with, I think, Brian Bosworth, right?
I will say this. Oklahoma had a tremendous amount of transfers, like people who just bounced and went into the transfer portal. So Navy caught an incredibly young Oklahoma team, but still 5-star recruits. Oklahoma gets 5 4-star recruits. Should still easily beat Navy. And Navy, and I thought that was going to happen. They were down 14-0, and I'm like, all right, not going to be able to score. This is going to be one of those games where it's just like, yeah, it's like 14-0, and then it becomes 21-0, and then like 24-0, and then maybe Navy scores like a garbage time touchdown, but then Navy just slowly came back and then won the game. And then not only did they win the game, but like you could see that Oklahoma was driving down, they score, and then Oklahoma decided, well, screw it, let's not go into overtime. Let's just go for the win and 2 points right now.
Yeah,
and then Navy stopped them. And I was just like, you know what? 2024, great year in sports for me.
I don't remember what game it was, but I remember I was doing something and you were obviously watching the game or something, and I saw that they won. I don't remember who the hell they were playing, but I'm like, holy shit, they fucking did it. Yeah. I was like, Dan's team won.
I remember we were
like,
here.
Where's Dan? I was like, I don't know where he is, but I can't believe they fucking won.
I remember we were here. We were at a local pub, and I was watching the game against Memphis there. And then we came and they were like, "Oh, come by my place and like we'll have a few drinks." And I'm like, "If you put on the Navy Memphis game, I will be there." And then that was an incredible game too, because their quarterback Blake Horvath just kept running like 56, 72 like yard runs. That was a big thing in that Oklahoma game. He had one of the longest runs in Navy football history. I think he had like, what was that, 92, 95 yard touchdown run against Oklahoma that tied the game, or Navy at least gave Navy the lead. But yeah. It was a great season for Navy. Won the Commander-in-Chief's trophy, which is you beat Army and Air Force.
I remember talking about that trophy.
Yep. And then won their bowl game. So I can't argue. 2 straight World Junior Championship gold medals for Team USA, and Navy turned it around this year. So
so that was last year. You have a whole nother year to think about all these new things.
Yes, I know. Like the Four Nations face-off. But I think, my friend, that we had a nice little talk here, and I think we should wrap this up because I need a fresh one.
That sounds good.
All right. So for Justin, I'm Dan, and thank you for joining us at Loud and Drunk Sports.